welcome to Talent Hub Talk. I am Ben Duncan, and this is a place where prominent and inspirational figures from both the local ANZ and global Salesforce Ohana share their stories. In today's episode, I am delighted to be joined by Gregory Gifford, a Salesforce MVP and the author of Automating Salesforce Marketing Cloud. We explore Greg's early career aspirations, how he was first exposed to marketing technology, and how he has seen marketing automation evolve over the years. Greg talks about his initial experience with ExactTarget, how the platform has expanded since the Salesforce acquisition, and when he first acknowledged the power of the Salesforce community. We look at the differences between working client and agency side, as well as discuss the skills that are required in a Salesforce Marketing Cloud team. Finally, Greg shares some advice for anyone on the periphery of the Salesforce ecosystem and explains who will find value in his book. I hope you enjoy the episode. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. We're exploring the world of marketing automation and specifically Salesforce Marketing Cloud today. But I'm interested in hearing a bit about your journey to this point, and I guess what kind of led you down the path of specializing in this space. So when did you first become interested in marketing and advertising, and what was it that kind of attracted you to that path?
I'm going to start back in high school. So for most of my schooling, including high school years, I honestly was kind of lost in what I wanted to do in the future. The only thing that really stood out to me was computers. I was not exactly highly skilled or knowledgeable at the time around them, but they were an interest of mine. So when I went to college, I had to declare a major, and even though I did not really know what it was, I declared computer science since I like doing things on the computer. So there's literally nothing else that really stood out to me as, oh, I can do this for the rest of my life. So in college, I went with my computer science degree, which lasted until my first calculus test. I had probably one of the strictest, toughest teachers I've ever run into for that class. Don't get me wrong, I was no straight A student, but I hadn't failed a single class, nor really even come close to that until calculus, where I went down in what I like to call a big burning ball of failure there. I could spend hours talking about how he did me wrong and give excuse after excuse, but that's not what we're here to hear. So after that, I started again feeling maybe computer science is not for me. I started talking with a few other friends of mine at college, and they were majoring in advertising and communication. After learning a bit about that, I really kind of dug how it's just boils down to problem solving, and it's more problem solving people and behavior compared to where in computer science it's math and logical operations. So this understanding and the push from my friends is really what started driving me down the marketing and advertising path.
So obviously at that point, I guess when you were studying computer science, you saw a career in technology, and then as you transitioned into the communications and marketing and advertising space, I guess it probably wasn't all that clear to you that you would still be a technologist in the future.
Yeah, I didn't really plan it per se. I honestly don't think I really had any sort of plan for most of my college career. Most of what I did just was what felt right and sort of floated forward without a long-term goal. I did always have the passion for technology, and I knew that's where I could potentially have the most impact at. So I always kind of leaned in that direction when possible. I love being able to utilize all of the different kinds of technology to automate things or provide different benefits to my life. And I was and still am a big video game nut, which is all technology. So technology always had a draw to me because it's complex but simple. Now I know that sounds odd, but what I mean by that is in automation, how we take a whole bunch of complex steps and different activities and different things, and we use technology, we simplify it down to just push of a button and it all gets done. The other part probably that really drew me to technology is how, in some ways, it's very rigid, where you have a specific syntax. You can only do it this specific way to get this done. But then also in other areas, it's basically the Wild West in the sense of you have this one specific end goal that you want your script to do, and you have about 10,000 different ways that you can get there. And inside of many different areas, they're all right. So it's not that there's one solution, there's a million solutions depending on a lot of variables. So this kind of like gives you the freedom to leave your mark in the field too, and kind of pave your own way rather than just, be a cog in a wheel sort of situation. So that's really, yeah.
Yeah, nice. So when you started pushing yourself more out away from computer science into the marketing world, and was marketing technology a thing right then? Like, could you see that as a potential career path in university, or at that stage it wasn't necessarily something that was being utilized or talked about?
So it wasn't really something that was utilized a whole bunch. It was in the very beginning where technology was kind of coming into existence there in the sense of marketing and technology combined. Obviously, technology has been around for a while, but that combination there was just beginning. In fact, in my college courses, I had a whole bunch of college classes talking about this new innovative way that we're using technology in marketing, and integrated marketing and all this kind of stuff that really was trying to pave the way there for that. So I know I'm dating myself a little bit there, but that's part of where I kind of was getting my first exposure into that kind of stuff. And honestly, that I could go into a little story there about my first exposure, if you don't mind.
No, that'd be great. Yeah. I'd love to hear how you first came across the power of marketing technology and how that came to be.
Sure. Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite stories to tell, because it really, I started in what I like to call a very ridiculous way. So first exposure was in a very tiny little quote unquote agency that I started into when I was finishing up college. Basically, this agency was three middle-aged men chain smoking in a closet, and me. So since I was the one that had HTML, CSS skills and some knowledge of technology, all of a sudden I became like the email guy and the web developer, which I most certainly was not even close to a web developer. But there was no one else there that had any knowledge at all in it. So that became me. Very quickly, through that, I became apparent to me that these people had no idea about technology, had no interest in technology, and were putting emphasis on the wrong direction and would not grow and invest in there. So that's where I then moved to an actual company, a brand. I no longer worked in the agency setting, but instead moved brand side to a financial services company. When I joined there, that company was, 3-4 person marketing department. But joining there, I met my first real tech whiz of marketing in my career. He helped me to grow my capabilities, nurtured me to become more of an innovator for email marketing, kind of take over that aspect fully and completely. Like that was the part where the veal was opened and I saw all of the possibilities instead of just being, shoved onto things and, forcing technology in places that maybe it wasn't the right fit kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So what were you using at that point then? What technology was being used by the business?
So at that point, it was still ExactTarget. There was some SQL databases that were attached to it. Trying to think, it's been a while, so I'm trying to remember what other technologies they had. I think that was before ExactTarget started diving into the SMS capabilities and things like that. So it was mostly focused on just email and a little bit of web. So there was some front end stuff. I was not as heavily involved in that part of it, but there was some with like different landing pages and things like that that would exist on the, again, at the time ExactTarget interface that I would be utilizing.
So a lot of people that will be listening to this that might work with Marketing Cloud today won't necessarily have had exposure to ExactTarget prior to the acquisition. So can you remember, like after the acquisition, at what point, I guess from the moment that the platform was acquired, how much it's evolved now, and in comparison to back then, could you back then be a specialist in everything? Obviously, I appreciate there were elements that you didn't do in your role, but could someone theoretically be an ExactTarget specialist and be across the whole platform? And do you still think that's possible today with the evolution of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud platform?
So once Salesforce bought ExactTarget, there were certainly some growing pains up front there. All in all, though, I think there were very large steps forward. Salesforce introduced real, true cross-channel marketing into the tool. ExactTarget did start dabbling their toes, and like I said, there was the SMS stuff they were bringing up. There was some integrated platform capabilities that were beginning right as soon as they were purchased by Salesforce. And I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that will disagree with me and point out that the base was built by ExactTarget for this. And that's all very true. I definitely fully agree with that. But I still give the credit to Salesforce on how elegant it's grown up into being, because very obviously they've had a lot more experience in building this kind of stuff than ExactTarget did. They're a fairly large, significant company, whereas ExactTarget still was growing, but was still fairly small in comparison. As to if someone could be across the products for ExactTarget, I would say yes, 100%. That, and I even think if we go to what is the remainder of ExactTarget now inside of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which is engagement, I would still say yes, you can be across all of the capabilities inside of engagement. But now Salesforce Marketing Cloud has grown into many multiple products through the recent name changes. So it is not just that engagement platform anymore. So I'd say yes, but only inside of like oversight or general sense, like that high level solutioning aspect, you can be across all. But if you're going to look at someone that's really truly specialized, I wouldn't say more than maybe two of the products, just due to the different context, languages, environments, all of that that's really unique across each, because prior to the last year, they were all technically completely different products. So now that they're grouped, it's likely in the future that'll probably get more unified. It'll be something that each one of those products starts changing to match the others and all that. But I don't see that in the near future. I think it's still going to be a couple of years before we are able to get more and more specialization across all of those products.
Mm-hmm. And you came into the Salesforce world through the acquisition of ExactTarget, right? So you were working on that platform, Salesforce acquires it, and then you become a Salesforce professional. But at what point did you really start to notice the power of the Salesforce community and the ecosystem? And how did you then get involved in that?
So, like you said, I did just started out the ExactTarget community because that's the tool I was introduced to Salesforce from. That was honestly when they purchased it was the first I really truly had exposure to Salesforce. I did dabble inside of the ExactTarget communities and events. There was some like I think it was like 360 or something like that. That there was their little like training places and things like that. I moved around. I attended some connections, all of that, but I wasn't really fully invested in the community at that time. Once Salesforce did buy ExactTarget, though, I started to find out about like different forums and groups, mostly like Salesforce Stack Exchange. Once I found that site, I found like by people, and I felt that instant connection. I was definitely like a user of the site for a good year before I had the confidence to really begin posting answers and comments and kind of putting out questions myself. Once I did, though, like I couldn't stop. As I grew there, I started getting more and more exposure to the larger ohana of Salesforce and all those communities that come along with it, and honestly never looked back since. There have been so many opportunities, doors, friendships, and relationships that have grown out of being in the community. It's unfathomable to me that how anyone could work at a Salesforce product and not be a member of the community.
Yeah, it's such an incredibly powerful thing, and it showed me this week. Actually, I got a message from someone in the US, and they said that they were at a user group that was attended by someone from the UK, who I've never met, but I've spoken to online. They've been on the podcast, and the person from the UK that's in the US at the moment attended a user group and recommended this person gets in touch with me about a potential opportunity in Australia. And I was like, how that surely doesn't happen in other industries where you've got this online communication between three parties that have never met each other but are all recommending each other, and it's just the power of the community is just something else.
Oh, it's absolutely it's insane. Like some of the people that I collaborate with best are people that are on the other side of the world from me. Like I
Hmm.
have I feel like at any time of day for me, I can get onto a Slack channel or any sort of forum and have people that I know that I can instantly converse with, and I'm sure they have the same with them as well. It's a full global community that every person is welcoming to, and
Hmm.
every person is out to learn and learn with you and teach. Like that's it's like I said, I don't think I've ever seen anything to compare.
Yeah, 100%. And you've worked. So your first experience was in a finance organization. You've then moved and transitioned into consulting and customer partner side. How would you explain the different challenges that you face compare if you're working for a customer compared to working for a partner or agency?
So working with a client and an agency, I think they're both pretty much like two sides of the same coin. When push comes to shove, the end goal of each is to provide a high quality solution to help business prosper and move forward. That's basically you're there to make the company money.
Hmm.
The issue, or I guess difference, not issue, is how it's accomplished and the measurement of success. Client side is more focused on like that full integration and immersion with the company infrastructure, the context, the goals, and agency partner side, your focus is more on that, like hone into that specific project or job. And the goal is to try to get as close, if not above, the client's set goals or requirements as possible. On average, client side two has a higher expectation of creating solutions or finding and defining pathways to success, where agency is usually more like production oriented. I know there's so many people right now getting out of their seat trying to throw things at me for saying that. I'm not trying to say that all agency work is purely production. There are different engagements of some of the larger companies or middle companies where the idea is thought leadership, the idea is innovation, all that. There's that's the bread and butter of companies, though. Of partner agencies, though, is that production, is being able to get those sends out, being able to build these things, build all these projects, work with the company to help supplement their own internal teams. The thought leadership, that subject matter expert, innovation, smart friend type stuff is amazing. It's what makes a company or partner stand out, but
Hmm.
it's not what usually makes them that money.
So do you differentiate between like an agency and a consultancy? Like, because obviously there are consultancies that will go in and do the initial implementation of Marketing Cloud. So, because I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily, if they don't know the Marketing Cloud world, they wouldn't differentiate between an agency that does production and a consulting partner that does implementation that might not necessarily then do the production. So do you see that there is a difference between those two types of consulting organizations?
Yes, yeah, there definitely there is a big difference. Like you just said, there's agency is going to be the one that has that production aspect to it. Consultancy is going to be only really those thought leaderships. There will be some doing from them. And like you said, initial implementation, there will be some work on helping to build out in tandem, but in general, they're usually fairly hands off from the tools. They're more of telling you how your business should move forward. Uh, yeah, I'd say as to the major difference, I think honestly you're going to find in an agency, there's a lot more of a solid background inside of the technical aspects, where the consultancies are usually more of that high level solutioning aspect to find ways that maybe aren't platform specific solutioning and strategies. Now, again, agencies have that as well. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously you get some like all-in-one shops that can do everything from implementation to production, right? So we see some of those as well that are truly specialists in that marketing cloud world. You know, they don't tend to do a huge amount outside of that, or they have a specific team that only focuses on marketing cloud as well. So what about then the makeup of a marketing cloud team? Because you get like the more email focused skill sets and then the more data driven skill set. So what kind of makes up the perfect marketing cloud team? If you were to create a new team for an organization now, what kind of skills would you look for?
That's it's a difficult question to answer. Really, honestly, with how much Marketing Cloud has grown and increased, it's got to be kind of like a little more specific. So what I'm going to do, because I mean, like, what product you use, what support avenues you have internally, all that is going to change what you need. So I'm going to kind of give a specific context just to kind of help that I can answer without just giving vague vague responses. So I'm going to say, like, we're talking about Salesforce engagement, which is email studio, automation studio, all of that, with the focus being on like email, SMS, push, all that kind of stuff as the messaging that's going out. For this, I would say the three most important skills that we would need for daily usage would be SQL, email development, which is like HTML, CSS, and AmpScript. I think with these three skill sets, you would open up pretty much all of the core capabilities of engagement, allowing for things like custom segmentation, reporting, dynamic content, personalization, as well as building intuitive and innovative email messaging. Now, outside of those technical aspects, there are some things like you'd want, like an email designer, a project manager, administrator, a data designer, an architect. And I know this is starting to sound like, wow, like this team is like, 10 people. Oh my God. Like, that most places can't afford that. And honestly, that's not what I'm trying to say. Most of these skills can be combined into a single person. For instance, you could have like your SQL person that's also a data designer, an architect, an admin, maybe a project manager, and there you're taking 3 or 4 of those skill sets right off the table, which leads me to where I would say the minimum people I would really recommend having on a marketing cloud team are 3 to 4 team members, or the equivalent of. And what I mean equivalent of is you could have, 2 front end developers that are working on, web stuff in one way, but then also half of the time they're working on email stuff. That would then equate to one person because there's 2 half people. So like that kind of stuff is what I mean by equivalent of, because otherwise, like if you're looking less, you're looking at like 1 or 2 people, you're going to start noticing silos and blinders in relation to marketing cloud, and kind of reduce the effectiveness of it. Like I've been in that situation where I am the marketing cloud person. I'm the only person in the tool. Like I'm the only person that does anything or understands anything in it. And I completely missed a ton of things that would have been amazing solutions because I was the only point of view on it. I didn't realize, hey, outside of my blinders, there's this awesome thing that I can do. So by having those more viewpoints, the more likely you are to get around that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's good to get that insight because we sometimes get clients come to us and say, "Well, we've just implemented Salesforce. We need someone to look after the platform." And okay, cool. What are you using? Sales, service, marketing cloud. Like someone thinks that you can get across everything and be the one person that looks after the whole suite. And obviously, marketing cloud is so different from sales cloud. It's to expect someone that can do that is very difficult. There are a few people that know both platforms, but actually then to hear what it takes to run a marketing cloud platform as a team would give people the insight they need to understand actually you need a lot more than just one person across the whole platform.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you've recently released a book. So where did the idea come from, and who gets value from reading that book?
So the idea came from honestly just the years of talking in the community and being involved. Like I started getting together a bunch of different topics, thinking, oh, I'm gonna use this on my blog. I'm gonna make this series, and then as it grew, I'm like, this is way too big for me to put on my blog. I've got so much detail. And from there, it kind of turned into like I met the publisher Pact, and we started having conversations. Realized, hey, this would be a great book, and that's kind of how this all kind of steamrolled together into to bringing that out. As to who the book's like aimed for, honestly, I mean, I tried to aim it everyone I could. I think it could help people of all levels. I think, like, for instance, it certainly could help day zero people, but I think that more for them to really get the most value out of it, they need to be able to get some time and experience in the platform, really be able to understand some of the terminology and the ideas and context of it before it really makes sense. The automation theory stuff and all of that in the beginning, I think, is certainly great, but I think a lot of the other stuff, like, it can be a reference as you learn, but you might not get the full value in return. And vice versa too. I think for those that are more experienced or highly experienced, some of the middle couple chapters where we go into the platform specific stuff may not really give you everything you want, but we've got that automation theory again that can help for those that are developer centric, that they have a developer mindset and don't think about those possibilities and are only A to B to C. Getting that theory in there, they can help expand up and learn better solutioning, elegant solutions, all that kind of stuff, as well as those that are highly skilled in one area, like, say, amazing at server-side JavaScript, but have never built a custom journey builder activity. We have examples. We have this all set up, an entire chapter pretty much on that you can use to learn and kind of grow your skill set there and be able to do more.
So there's something in there for everyone.
Yep. Yeah, that's the idea. And, like, I think probably of who I would say finds the most value is probably the person in Marketing Cloud that has the desire to grow their efficiency and capabilities. I don't think, like, the number of years, the experience, or skill set is as important as the drive, desire, and openness to learn. And I feel like that's really what would determine who would get the most out of the book.
And talking to those people that maybe are starting their journey now and looking to get into the marketing cloud world, what advice would you have to someone that's kind of fresh and ready for to explore the world of marketing cloud and hopefully find their first opportunity? But what kind of building blocks would you recommend people put in place to get there?
So I would start off saying absolutely Marketing Cloud is a great career to get into. It's amazing people, amazing community. I think it's one of the funnest platforms I've ever worked on. Along with that, though, it's one of the harder things to break into because in order to get that experience that people are looking for, you need a role that's touching Marketing Cloud to be able to get that experience, because there is no dev environment or anything that you can kind of fiddle around with to play with beforehand. So you usually have to start out from nothing and hope someone is willing to take a chance on you and hire you in. Salesforce has worked around some options, like they have some boot camps that have, like, dev environments and stuff that you can play around and mess with, but it's only temporary. It's getting us there, but it's still likely the hardest hurdle of getting into it. So my advice based on that is not to try and sell yourself as an expert in something that you aren't an expert in. That, you might have the trailhead knowledge, you might have the theory, might have a lot of that, but you haven't actually done it. And a lot of times it's fairly easy to see those people when you're on an interview. So instead of trying to sell that, I would instead demonstrate the drive and desire to learn and grow. Show what you've learned so far. Share who you learned it from or how you learned it. How you intend to continue to learn and grow and express your desire to do so in that company. This kind of helps to show the recruiter as well as the hiring manager the potential they can have with you. it kind of helps them to re-examine the value proposition they use when hiring a candidate. I mean, I personally, I would more often hire someone that has absolutely no experience, but huge high potential of growth over someone that's got, a couple of years experience, but doesn't show the drive to move forward as much as, that the others that are in there. So, I mean, it goes. You can upskill someone, you can train someone, but you can't create that hunger to grow and learn in someone that has to come from that person.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is more of it's a level playing field, right? In that because there aren't developer orgs, it's really attitude is a big thing to show, like, are you attending meetups? Are you in the community? Are you reading blogs? Are you reaching out to people like yourself and asking questions and and showing that hunger? Because it can't just be about learning in a developer org and just purely on Trailhead, right? That's not the option in the Marketing Cloud world. And then finally, talking about community, obviously, there are people out there that are on the periphery of the ecosystem. They don't necessarily jump in with both both feet and explore and get the most value from the community whilst adding value to the community. So what would you say to people that aren't necessarily as embedded in the ecosystem as they could be for whatever reason?
I mean, dive in. The Salesforce community, honestly, is probably one of the best communities out there. I feel like I said this before, but it's 100% true. Like the welcoming environment, the helpful demeanor of the members, it's incomparable to any other platform or service or software out there that I've ever seen. I mean, are there flaws? Are there places that could be better? Sure. But I mean, the dedication of the volunteer members, as well as the actual initiatives and attention to Salesforce itself to grow and nurture the community is astounding. It was through the community that I grew. Like I was saying earlier, I started out surfing Salesforce Stack Exchange to get free dev help. Then all of a sudden I was answering the questions. For I'm speaking at events and on panels and subject matter expert. Without the community to help engage, grow, and challenge me, I would not be where I am today. This is why every day I work to try and contribute at least something to the community to ensure I can kind of pay it back for the amazing things that it's allowed me to accomplish.
Which is what makes the community so great, right? That you have these people that have gone from asking questions to answering, and now wanting to give back on a daily basis to help others, and that it goes round and round, and more people doing that obviously keeps the community what it is. So thank you so much for sharing your story and insight. Really enjoyed the chat. And if anyone does want to reach out and ask any questions, maybe not platform related, because they can ask that on the in the community, but in terms of just your career or getting any advice from you, what's the best way to contact you?
Honestly, the best two ways are both Slack communities. There is How to SFMC Slack community, as well as the Email Geek Slack community. I would normally say Twitter, but with everything going on, I've kind of reduced my presence there. So I may not be as reachable there, but I also am on LinkedIn. And if you reach out on there, I'm fairly active there as well, and I can communicate there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It was great talking with you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the chat, and if you did, please make sure you have subscribed for future episodes that are coming through. I would also be very grateful if you would consider leaving a review on your chosen podcast platform, as 5-star reviews will help us to reach more trailblazers from across the world. I look forward to sharing another episode with you soon, and thanks again.